Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? So, in this video, I want to talk a little bit about modern work and why it just seems to feel so broken in the modern world. Now, I'm particularly talking about corporate work and just the corporate world in general, and particularly from the United States, because that's the country I live in. So, when we talk about modern work or corporate work, it just feels very soulless in the sense that you go in, it feels like your job doesn't really make much of an impact on the world. There's not really any consequence. You don't really feel like you're building any real skill. You're kind of just going to meetings, checking boxes, working on some, stupid spreadsheet or something that just doesn't really matter, right? Like your job just feels very inconsequential. And even if you do have an important job, you're just kind of sort of a cog in a larger machine. And so, and this is very pervasive everywhere. These aren't like a minority of jobs. This is probably most of what people in the United States work on. They have these boring office jobs. So the question is, what exactly do we do about this? Because on one hand, you do have to, you know, go in and earn a living. You might have a family, or even if you don't, you just got to provide a living for yourself. So w- this isn't optional in a sense that we get to just choose whether we want to go into the office or not. We do have obligations, we have bills to pay. But I want to talk a little bit about how you can kind of break out of that mold a little bit, or at least find some way to either break out of it completely and find something new to do, or to at least make it somewhat bearable. So the first thing we need to talk about is don't get sucked into the office life itself. Whenever you go into the office, what you'll notice, especially if you've never been in one before, you'll notice that people are just kind of defeated. Like that's really the only way I can just kind of describe it. People, they eat complete junk food all day, complete crap. They just let their diets go. They don't move. They live just very sedentary lives. They kind of just get caught up in just really kind of pointless and meaningless stuff. Like they all they do is talk about, the big sports game or something stupid that happened at home. And not that these things are necessarily stupid, but like their whole life revolves around it. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a sports game. But when it's the only thing you live for, it's the only thing exciting in your life, it kind of tells a lot about where you are. So yeah, so it's okay to have leisure, but if that's where you're drawing the main sense of purpose, it's the main source of purpose in your life. It's not a good thing. It's a sign you got to change things. So you go into the office, see these people, they're overweight, out of shape, they have terrible diets, they don't exercise. All they live for is some random sports game on the weekends. Maybe they don't even really like their family life. So there's something deeply wrong with it. And so you look around, you just see all these defeated people, and they keep going in because they feel like at this point it's kind of just sucked them in and trapped them there. And they can't really do anything else. They feel like they can't really do anything else. They don't have any other choice. And you kind of learn like non-agency, right? You sort of learn that no matter what you do, this is just your life. And so you have to actively not allow yourself to fall into that trap of feeling like you are an office worker. You are currently someone, you're a human being who currently has an office job, and it's what you're doing to sustain yourself. But it's not what you are. You're not an office worker. You're not one of these mindless drones. Like you have to set your life straight outside of work, and you have to keep your mindset clear so that you don't get sucked into this rabbit hole of just feeling like this is all life is. You just go in, clock into the office, sit there in some boring, stale, soulless office, and then go home. You want to keep active outside. If you want to be developing your skills and virtue outside of life, you want to be engaged outside of outside of the office. And so what you really need to do is not don't get sucked into this life. Don't become one of the office drones. You always keep in the back of your mind that you're kind of different than the people who want to be here, right? Like you're like this isn't what you want to do. It's just what you have to do, at least temporarily, while you're sustaining yourself. So um, you're not an office worker. Keep your agency, and part of keeping your agency too is realizing that this is not all that you're destined to do in this life, and it's not all you're capable of doing. You know, you probably have a lot of skills, or at least something you can do, or at least to work on in the meantime, that you can possibly either switch careers entirely or switch jobs, or even start your own business. If you and like one of your friends has an idea, um, and you think there's a chance of you making money at it, then take the risk. That's another thing too. Offices kind of, and modern work in general, they're very safety padded. Everything is just full of compliance and you know preventing liability, legal liabilities, and just making sure everything's comfortable and just nothing ever hurts you. And just making sure there's no drama, all these kind of things. Like we're kind of conditioned to not take risks in the world. So especially for most people in general, but especially if you're like a man and a young man, you want to take risks in this life. You want to actually do something that's worthwhile. You want to enter the fray so that you can, get some treasure, get some glory, something, make you feel like you're actually living a meaningful life. So if you have a chance to start a business or do something else or earn another revenue stream or just be engaged in something else that's more meaningful besides your office job, then take that risk. Don't be afraid to take a risk when, especially like when you don't have much to lose in these office jobs, you're kind of just going in day after day. Things get really mundane, so even minor risks can feel like make you feel exhilarated. So you want to find people too that you can kind of build things off of. And part of having agency in this world is taking initiative, seeing things that you don't like either in the world or in your own life, and taking action for it. You know, you can't just keep looking around, kind of just being upset the way things are and not doing anything about it. You have to actively, you know, notice things, uh, come up with a game plan, look at the chessboard, see where all the pieces are, and then decide what's the best move to make. What is the overall strategy? What are you trying to achieve? And then what tactic are you going to use to get there? So you really want to be always kind of asking yourself these questions. You are a free agent. You are, you know, a mover in this world. You're someone who makes choices, and your choices matter. They influence the world. And sometimes when you get caught in these ruts, especially in modern office life, you kind of forget that you are a free agent. So maybe you need sort of circumstances or some kind of event or activity that will remind you that you have agency. So maybe you need to go out and go camping for a little bit. You realize that, oh, if I want heat, I'm gonna have to start a fire, and if I in order for the fire to start, have to one who has to light the match or strike the flint and steel and chop down the tree and get the wood, or maybe you need to go to the gym and you take agency for, oh, when my muscles will grow if I go to the gym and I work hard at it, or maybe your entire house might need to do some home improvements. You'll notice that, oh, the house changes when I actually do something, and it changes for the better. So go through life and try to, like, especially if you're someone who hasn't had your agency for a long time, or you kind of have this learned non-agency, go through your life and just start picking up little tasks that remind you that your choices and what you do in this world actually makes a difference, is important. And then once you sort of built that foundation, or maybe you're ready for something a little bit more beyond, you can take a real risk. You can go out and maybe start some kind of project or business or something that can eventually start replacing your normal work. Or you could build a group of friends. Sometimes building a brotherhood, building a group of friends is something that you have to actively seek out. It's not just going to happen. So I'd say those. Say if I had to summarize it in sort of 3 points, those three things that we just talked about is a great way to kind of escape the office life. Or even if you can't physically or economically escape it, you can at least mentally escape it. You can keep control of your own mind and body. Don't eat all the crap that they put out in the office. Make sure you keep moving and exercising. Don't fall into the physical rhythm of an office worker, right? Don't just get lazy and sedentary and kind of depressed, and you just become this slob that lives in the office. Don't become one of those people, right? Second, start reminding yourself that you have agency, and start seeing yourself as a free agent, and a moral agent, and someone that can actually, you know, make changes. Start seeing life as a chessboard with pieces everywhere, and what pieces can be moved on your end to actually, improve your condition. And then start taking initiative. Start seeing things that need to be changed, either in the world or in yourself. And I'm not saying that you need to make a giant impact in the world, or that you need to do things um, that are really grand in order to have this effect. Even like a small revenue stream, or a small group of friends, or a small something that you can have control over, something that you can really change in this world, is enough to kind of pull you out of this hypnosis that is. And if you do ever come across an opportunity to start a business, especially if you're a man, you should definitely take that risk. If you're young too, and you can absorb the cost, and if you have a little bit of savings, really go in and take that risk. There's so many people that are afraid of risk, but it really is an essential part of what we do as people and as men in general. Um, we're built to handle risk, and that's something you need to start telling yourself too. In the same way that you start teaching yourself that you're a free agent in this world. Start teaching yourself that you're someone who can handle risk. Risk is not something that you're necessarily afraid of. You should be more afraid that you're stagnating and that you're feeling empty than that you're afraid of losing something. So, those are really your two choices. Are you happy with stagnation as a person, or are you happy with failure? If you're anyone, like me, I much prefer to fail than stay stagnant. I like to always keep moving. I like to always keep doing something, keep growing, keep, changing things. And, at least when you risk, you can potentially gain something amazing in this world instead of just kind of existing. And that's kind of what a lot of modern life, a lot of modern office life just kind of teaches people. It teaches people to just sort of exist and be happy with it. But deep down, I think all humans, um, we're built for much more than that. We're built for things like, um, meaningful risk and meaningful journey. We're built to have real relationships, not these bullshit curated, office relationships where we all pretend to like each other when in reality we're all just there for, a paycheck. No one's going to say that out loud. You can't say that in the office, but everyone is there for money. If they weren't being paid, no one would show up. It's true for most jobs, especially corporate America. Some jobs people have are genuinely important, but most office jobs are, just bullshit. Don't actually change anything in the world. Don't actually really influence the company anyway. Something like, they always say like 20% of the people do 80% of the work anyway. So, you gotta always, we're built for more than just simply existing and collecting a paycheck and going home and just surviving. We want to truly risk something. We want to truly be a part of something. Feel like our existence matters. Feel like we're needed. We're built for things like romance and growth and vitality. We're built to face danger. We're not built to be comfortable creatures. And so that's really the gist of sort of resisting. And I think this is really only going to become more relevant as the years go on because there's going to be probably an increasingly number of jobs that just get squeezed into offices, and it seems like this culture of uh, DEI and safe spaces and work is not going away anytime soon. So and that's another topic we can talk about quickly too. Is the whole you know culture of communication in offices. What you'll notice is you probably hear about things like about like DEI, but when you actually get into an office, you'll see it's even more bullshit than that. Everyone's fake to each other. Certain things you're not allowed to say. Certain jokes you're not allowed to say. Even looking at someone the wrong way can be interpreted wrong, and you got to pretend like everyone's the same and everyone's contributions matter, and that we're all going to hold hands, and that competition doesn't exist, and we're all going to pretend like your coworkers wouldn't screw you over, your boss wouldn't fire you, and all this kind of bullshit. Um, so and don't pretend like your coworkers are your friends or they would actually help you. They're not. You might find a genuine friend in an office, but more likely than not, they're just opportunists. They're there just like you are to collect a paycheck, and they don't really have any real loyalty to you. They'll choose their own paycheck and career over helping you in any way. So yeah, don't rely on coworkers. Absolutely do not ever trust your boss. Your boss is not your friend, and just always try to retain your agency and your sense of vitality in this stupid office world we find ourselves in. So that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me, if you want me to, if you think you should add anything else to this conversation, and let me know what you'd like to hear about in the future.